Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's panel discussion. Thank you, everyone, for joining. This session will be recorded, so do not worry about that. Today, we're going to talk about strategies and how you build through storm. I'm joined today by some excellent founders and speakers who have been through the storms, who have definitely some success stories to share with us. But at the same time, success never comes free; it comes at a price, and we're here with them to talk about that price. Let me add our guests here. So please welcome all of them. I will ask all the gentlemen, thank you, first of all, for joining. And second of all, please, if you could give us a little bit of introduction about who you are, what your projects are. But don't worry, we will spend some more time to talk about it a little bit more deeper, so you don't have to be as thorough. Ipek, maybe we can start with you straight away.
Hi everyone. Thanks, Oles. So this is Ipek. I'm a co-founder of the SyFu and also working as the VP of the product development and the overseas. And what we do is as a SyFu is actually we receive the payment data from users and we implement on the DePIN. So that's basically what we do. We start from Japan and we got really quite stronger in Japan market and we are expanding other market as well. So that's not common to have a Japanese project being going on the overseas and being successful. So we will hopefully get that thing one done. Yep. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thank you, Ipek. Matus, maybe we can go with you.
Thank you, Olis. Hi everyone. My name is Matus. I started out in crypto back in 2017 when I joined this newly set up blockchain fund, which is now called RockawayX. 3 years later, I moved on to Outlier Ventures, where I worked as head of token economics. And then back in 2023, I co-founded Deriverse. And at Deriverse, we're building a fully decentralized trading platform on Solana, where we are offering perps, options, futures, and spot, sort of all under one roof. As far as I know, we are the only ones on Solana with absolutely zero reliance on off-chain components and centralized architecture. So that is our core value proposition. And we can go into more details later on why that is important.
I'm sure we will. Thank you, Matos. Adam, let's finish with you.
Yeah, I'm Adam. I'm the CEO, co-founder, and sound guy at Warped Games. We're building Warped Universe. It's a single-player and co-op PvE game where you can choose a genre of missions. It's Web 2 and Web 3. Web 3 is optional. We partnered with Sui Network and Mistin, so we're building out on that side for our game on the Web 3 side. And we were at Basecamp showing our game on the Sui Play device that was on display there. Just building a game.
Great. I guess let's dive straight into it. And one of the first topics, let's start with the negatives, more or less, because I think this is why we're here today, by the way. But we will definitely come to the positives a little bit later. Adam, maybe let's stick with you for now,
Sure.
and ask you a little bit of a creative questions in terms of when you cut costs. What's the one thing that you would, because the market was a little bit tough for all of us, I think, here who are sitting here, right? So there are some cost cutting which is involved. When you cut those costs, what's the one that you today, looking back, regret cutting? And what's the one cost that you think you should have cut earlier a little bit?
That's a good question. It's hard to say a certain one answer, but I would say anything that we spent money on for hype and narrative is something that I don't think I would want to do as much anymore, because hype and narrative changes so fast in this industry that the moment that you spend money on it, it doesn't really matter much anymore once you initiate it. So I would say spending money on that stuff and marketing agencies. We've gone through multiple different marketing agencies trying to get our name out there. And what we've really learned is nothing beats one-on-one talking to people from yourself to the community and building it up and being an organic communication and building relationships. And when you hire someone to step in and do that for you, you're going to build artificial relationships, and those people won't stick around. There's no retention on that. So even if you bring people in with a blanket approach of marketing, most of them won't have any real connection to your project. And so we've spent some money on marketing, and we learned that nothing beats us doing it ourselves. I do think hiring advisors is important, though, to guide you on that, but doing it yourself is something that that's a major lesson that we've learned.
So perhaps the hiring of advisors is that one cost that you think you should have been more aggressive on in the past, or is there something that you feel?
Yeah, I would say leaning into those more versus hiring someone to step in and do it for us. We need to do it as a team ourselves, because that's where the true voice comes from, and the true message, and that's how they see you as an authentic project, especially in crypto. On the crypto side, there's everyone's anonymous, and it's really hard to find someone or a project that you really trust. And so you need to speak from your voice. And if you hire someone to do that for you, they're not going to trust you, and they're not going to stick around.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think hiring on people to guide you is good, but you got to do it yourself.
I think we'll speak more about that a little bit later, because I have some questions which kind of tie into that. Matus, maybe if we come to you, and this is more of an intertwine between the personal and a business professional, so to say. So what do you think was your biggest mistake last year that you still see people are doing today, then they can learn from it, be it as a founder or maybe even as a company?
I mean, I don't think there was a huge mistake that we have made, but looking back, maybe our biggest mistake was thinking fundraising would be as straightforward as building the product, and we were really, really wrong about those timelines in this bear market. So when you're building stuff, if you know what your team can do and what they're capable of, you kind of know how long it's going to take, or at least you can reasonably plan around that. But fundraising is a whole different thing. The thing about raising money in a bear market is that it's you cannot really rush it or speed it up. Like, there is no FOMO, or there is much less FOMO driving investors to move quickly. So they take their time doing due diligence and negotiating terms. And yeah, I still see many teams kind of making the same mistake today. They plan their runway, thinking they'll close their round in a few weeks, just like during the bull market. But that's just not how it works right now. So this kind of miscalculation is super dangerous, because it messes with everything, like your cash planning, your hiring, your whole business strategy, and before you know it, you're in trouble. So I guess we should have been a bit more conservative with these timelines. I guess that's the biggest mistake we have made. But we survived. We survived.
I see the guys are nodding, and I can only attest to that. We work as a venture studio, so we work with multiple and plethora of projects, and this is usually, everyone tends to stick on building, but sometimes that funding aspect is like, we'll get it later. We'll get it sorted. It's gonna be easy, but it never is. Not even building it, right? But we'll speak about that a little bit later as well. So Ipek, let's talk about you and SyFu a little bit. You guys are basically combining Web2 and Web3 together still, to an extent, in terms of your target customer, etc. We will talk about that as well. But internally in your company, perhaps if you think about the last couple of years or just last year, was there a Web3 belief that you think is no longer relevant within your company, and you guys told to yourselves, this is not going to work anymore? Is there something like that you kind of took on as a lesson learned, so to say, and never to repeat again?
Yeah, I totally like the answers from the Adam and Matus as well. So in 2024 as well, the many projects that actually 90% of the projects has been focused on the hype and not the real product. So what in our case, we really focus on the product itself. As a SyFu, we focus and put our effort on mainly in the product development and community development as well. So as Adam said, we didn't go this marketing agencies, or we didn't go more I'm not against marketing agencies, but when you are in the beer season, you have to have the touch with the personal touch, creating community and making like the more strong identity for your community first, and then grow up on top of that one. So in most of the projects in the last few years, that especially like the bear market, they act like the bull market and end up like in the bear market, and that's one of the mistakes that in the market that I can't say we have that mistake, because we really passed this bear, and still if we are still going on through that one, we are doing well, and it was one of the most successful year for us as SyFu. We got really good community, we got really good product development and investments as well. And we already like got $1.8 million worth of NFT sales, which is like quite good for the comparing like the market station itself. So the hype is one of the mistakes that in the market. The hype is not only what we are looking for as a Web3 projects, also like the product itself and community, strong community that keep you going and you make your community happy for long term.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
At the end of each block, so let's say, so we've talked about now the mistakes and brutal lessons that we have from the bear market, right? If you guys take out perhaps your projects right now and think about the question as founders, as just people or degens in crypto, what do you think was the biggest market killer, or the biggest killer in 2024? We can talk about dry funding, we can talk about perhaps dead user growth, right? Or burnout, regulation, or just general market noise. What do you think was top one culprit of what we've seen during the last year or so? I think we've lost Matus, but let's just continue.
Maybe if I'm thinking not our project, but overall, it's I think a lot of people try to plan for the cycles, and I think that the past dictates the future, and it's kind of a perpetuating thing online. You go on Twitter or X, and you go on, anywhere. Everyone talks about the cycles, and this is what happened before, so this is when it's going to happen. But it never happens exactly the same again. Like the cycle, there is a cycle, but you can't plan for it, and you have to plan beyond it. And you have to plan for a long term. And I think a lot of projects died out because they're, making their plans according to how it worked in the past, and that's not how it works. And you can't plan for just the next step. You have to plan for the next 10.
Yep. I really totally agree with Adam. Actually, like in my case, like most of the projects that actually like we don't have a long history as Web3. So our metrics for like we check it out is actually not long term. We are just stealing from the other Web2 or the other traditional businesses. But I see like in our ecosystem, like the airdrop campaigns, hype-driven noises, like just on the market, and without even noticing ourselves, like as a project members or project founders, we don't sometimes notice. Actually, we are following the things that actually don't have history. And we just like think it's a norm. It's a norm that we have to follow. And most of the projects actually like stuck with those the hype that people ask you, you have to do this campaign, you have to do this airdrop, you have to do that, you have to do that, and then they lose why I'm doing this. What's my purpose? Well, how can I create my community, and why community should investment? Because one of the problems in the differences between Web2 and Web3, Web2 is like we have clients, users, and then they just like support us, they pay, and we give the service to them. But Web3 is different. Like Web3 is like the people who is actually like being in the community, they are investors, they are your colleagues, your partners, and at the same time, the people who is actually like your users. So that makes them special. And whatever you are doing, you have to understand that you are actually one of the representation of those community members. You are not the founder, you are not the owner of the project. You are just like get a special token, a bit more token. That what you do is like for actually like making successful product for those community. That's something missing in the ecosystem. That then most of the projects, they don't understand why we are here. We are representative of our community, not like only creating a project for making ourselves rich or making ourselves like hype.
Mm-hmm. Matus, I'm not sure if you got cut off before I've asked the question, or it's generally, what do you think is the biggest has been the biggest market killer in 2024, whether it was funding or regulation, market noise, burnout, whatever else might it be, or bad internet, as we can see. Maybe okay.
Bad internet is the answer.
I think we have the answer, so I think we can move on. Just also a quick organizational one, because I've just realized I failed to admit Omar, unfortunately, from Agritex was not able to join us today, but there's a silver lining to everything, and I think this gives us a lot more time to focus on these gentlemen and their experience with their projects, and actually what really worked for them, because we have some unique examples sitting in front of us who made it work when everyone else was kind of suffering. Which brings me to our next block or segment of our talks, is building while everything is cold, more or less, right? Maybe Ipek, we can stay with you, because I've liked your not really analogy, but your discussion about combining the Web 2 and Web 3. So presumably you have users from both sides, right? But if you focus on the Web 2 users, most likely they're not really interested about the Web 3 elements, right? So how do you specifically hide it for them, or if you do at all? And what do you think is the acquisition and retention rate of, or rather strategies for users such as this?
Yeah, that's a good question actually. Like, because when I started the Web3, like I was finding out like the Web3 is quite difficult to understand, difficult to use, especially like if you put yourself as on the shoes of someone as like the not really tech savvy and not like the financial savvy. But that was one of the things like I realized actually, like making Web2 people to Web3 is very difficult. So it's not something like a project can that easily handle. Like most of the new projects, when I talk to them, they always come up like, oh, I will make the things like easy for Web2 users to come to the Web3 users. So it's a big move. It's a big sharp change for those people. So it's not only about the UI and UX. It's more about like the mindset of the Web3 people is different. So it's just like you have to make this Web2 people to Web3 is not that easy. It's a long way to go. So what we could do is like the Web3 projects, that we create an ecosystem that's attractive for those people, and they make them to like, okay, this is something like going bright and nice on Web3 that which I'm not seeing that clearly, but I should learn more about this one and I involve more. Not like only about the UI UX. It's more about like the understanding more about what we are doing and benefits of the being Web3. In our case, SyFu, like we, as you mentioned, like we have a gateway between Web2 to Web3, because we got the payment data from third parties, like your bank, credit card, debit card. So we collect that data, which is your Web2 data actually, and we bring on the Web3. So your off-chain data will come on-chain. So if it's not only like they're keeping a data on the like on-chain actually, it's just like we make people like, okay, there is a data that you all gathered from your credit card, debit card in one place that normally in Web2 it's not easily used, because you don't own your own data. You cannot take your data on an Excel or your CSV and put on another bank. But in Web3, you can own your data and you can own your own materials. That's one of the things that differentiation of the understanding. Whatever you do on the Web3, it's actually yours. We just hold it for you, and you can carry on different places with yourself. So that's one of the Web3's benefits, that we can gradually go that level. So your material, your product, your design, your understanding, your value is actually yours, and we just hold it for you, but you can put on and go into your wallet to other wallets. So that's one of the things about the Web3 to move Web2 people to Web3, not only UI UX actually.
I love it. It's I like to call this as a layer approach, because a lot of companies, again, we work with a lot of products, so we've seen that sometimes we've made the mistakes ourselves, perhaps in the past, where the journey perhaps from Web 2 to Web 3 is not a journey from point A to B, but it's rather in layers. So it's you have the Web 2, and on top of it you have the Web 3. So here we see a prime example of you guys implementing it. So we always preach it. So thank you for executing and showing everyone how it's basically done. In terms of the user data, which you just kind of mentioned, how do you right now you guys have been pretty successful in Asia region. We will talk more about that a little bit later. But how do you? I think there's a sense of confidence in people providing you data that is intrinsic with it and goes with it, especially with Web2 people, right? How do you ensure that this confidence stays at scale? Right now you're in Asia, right? Presumably you guys want to expand globally. So what is that thinking or strategy? Because again, you have the users which are in Asia, they have different way of thinking, or customers, than perhaps in Europe, etc. So is there a strategy attached to it?
For our case, we are working with me starting from Japan, and our team all Japanese, and it's one of the thing about like the Japanese people are the most articulated and very detail-oriented people in the world, and they are very careful about what they are doing. And so what I say about these data issues, there are three layers for that one. The legal layer, so you get the data on the legal wise, like you holding someone's data. In EU is a GDPR. In other countries like that, they have different regulations. That's one layer. The second layer is about like the technicalities. So how you get this data is also one thing that you just like make your community and people like, okay, this guy is getting this data from these reliable and trustable partners. And the third one is actually like the business wise, and that's coming from the Web3 actually. Web3, you have to at the end of the day you have to trust the founders. So when we start a business, like you always start with the founders, like people behind, and then the product is coming behind actually. But in the Web2 is a bit more sometimes different. Like Web2 is like product come up first, and then people start using it, and then they check the people behind. In Web3, they want to see as Adam said before, like they want to see the people behind. Who is the person talking? Who is the one that actually behind, and one-to-one communication. That's why I believe that they need to trust your legalities, that how you're doing the legally is correct, and your technically is correct, and as well as the people behind is that they trust or not trust. That's the one thing that I can say this.
Mm-hmm. So if you would have to summarize perhaps in one or two sentences, why do you think you have been particularly successful in Asia specifically?
I think why Asia? Because we started from Asia. Like if it started from different country probably, and our team is different background, I will say like that. The second, Web3 is very hype in in China, in Japan, in other countries. So the market is going on that part, and the new changes, new movements, new projects is always coming from my perspective, by the way, from coming from the Asia. So that's they just have more brain, like they have more tendency to use different products, different things in in Asia more than other places. So that's why one of the things, like if like Web2 is coming from like the Silicon Valley. So if any project coming from Silicon Valley, that in that ecosystem is more, they are feeling more comfortable to try and change and challenge it. In Web3, there are many projects coming from Asia. That's why that many projects is being challenged and checked in more easier in the Asia part. This is my perspective, by the way.
Okay, thank you. One last question before we move on to our fellow gentlemen here. What are your financial priorities for the next 12 months as a founder of a project? Are there any? Does it tie into the market conditions perhaps, or are you sailing straight towards your target without looking at those to that which is happening with the markets?
Is it a question to me or just like?
Yeah, that's to you.
Okay. What we do is like we survive like in a bear season, bear market. We don't do we don't focus on the bull market. Bull market is like market that if it is there, it is there. We just like we follow the market situation. But whatever we are doing is as like we are in the bear market. Our product development is in a bear market. So we don't change our we didn't really spend a lot of money on the marketing, and we are not planning to spend over hype marketing expenses. Definitely, we don't really follow because we have a product. We don't follow these hype Web3 movements. So we will do like as we are in the bear market, but considering about the bull market considerations as well. Yep.
Review. Adam, let's move on to you, perhaps.
Sure.
You are based in the US. I think maybe one of the spicy questions which one might ask is there any current political or legal climate? Is it somehow affecting your operations or plans or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about earlier your question before, and another answer is trying to plan our company and the structure around regulations that seem to change every single day. And hiring lawyers in crypto especially are not cheap, and they guide you to do something, and then you spend a lot of money and you try to set it up for that. And then a week later, that rule changes, and then you have to contact the lawyers, and they're like, hey, every word costs this much in the email, and if you get on a phone call, every minute costs this much. And so let's get on a call and talk this out. And you're like, okay, let's get on and talk for like 30 seconds, try to get this sorted so we don't have to spend $1 billion to plan our company when we just want to build. And the last year was very interesting in trying to plan that out. Luckily, our team is global, but a lot of our team is in the US. And so what we did was we structured the video game studios in the US and the crypto outside of the US, and have a symbiotic relationship between our studio and the foundation. But even that has to be morphed and changed and altered and create bylaws for every regulation that changes. And yeah, I mean, it's been very interesting trying to plan it out, and now we don't know if that is the way to be now, because laws are changing and regulation, the SEC is changing, and so we're just taking it day by day, and we went all out and setting up as safe as possible for our US side, and I think we can just kind of weather it out, and however it changes, we can adapt. But yeah, it was a long time of trying to plan a studio and company versus just wanting to get in and actually build and make the thing that we said we're going to build. Because you want to keep your team safe, you want to keep everyone, your investors and your community safe, and make sure everyone is solid. So you have to do that, but it's a lot of time and stress to plan something when the weather outside changes every single second. Essentially.
Because that's the big topic today, right? The change in how you adapt to it and how you react to it.
Yeah,
speaking
exactly.
of other perhaps maybe changes that are really that were perhaps driven by you guys. So you've launched on your token on EVM, right? And we've heard some rumors that you're right now moving to SyFu, which is not a rumor anymore. It's pretty much open, right? And you also get the support for Miston Labs. Congrats, by the way, on that. Can you share anything about that transition or that change? Perhaps does it have anything to do with the larger business model? I assume it does. So I think a lot of the teams nowadays are also thinking about similar changes. So I think there's a lot of value which you can share probably.
Sure. I think the biggest thing is take your time and plan, because everything changes. Even it's funny, this morning I woke up and checked the timeline, and there's a massive breach on one of the biggest liquidity providers on SyFu just today. And it's we were in talks with them for migration and everything, and now it's okay, well, we need to wait and see what's going on here. So it's every single day things change, but I think that the biggest thing is don't rush, because if you want to be a long-term project, you have to have long-term plans. And we, when we first launched our token on Ethereum with Cleevio, who helped us with our pre-sale and launched. So thank you. You guys are
guys.
very, very incredible with your support. That was at the end of 2023. Our previous project was on Ethereum, and so our community felt more comfortable being on Ethereum, and it just felt like a natural transition to just bring community over and stay there while we launch our and then we can figure out the move forward. But it also creates a lot of complexities because we can't build a game and have it on Ethereum. We have to have it on another chain that's faster and cheaper for quick Web3 transactions in the game. And so it's been a constant talk back and forth with the community how we're going to do this, but you don't know the answer, and you can't give this is exactly what we're going to do when you don't have that full answer yet. We also don't want to just jump onto another chain without the support of the team that's behind it. So we spent a long time talking to Mistin. We met with them at a conference over a year ago, and it took many, many months to establish that relationship where they wanted to officially partner with us and support us in every way to get over there. But even then, they're telling us, take your time, don't rush it, because we're new and a lot of things change, and watch other projects and watch what they're doing because they're already in the plans, and let's plan this together. And so, but when you say that to a community that wants to move, they get impatient and they're like, why aren't you moving now? And why aren't you moving now? And you're like, well, we're taking our time because that's what we were advised by the team here, but we also, the weather changes again. And so it's best to get as much data as possible before making a massive move and assess it and get it right. But a lot of the times, we're constantly dealing with, we're building a game, which is like the longest development cycle possible of any industry. You look at GTA and it's been like a decade of building and stuff like that. And then we're in crypto, it's the fastest there is, and people want instant. And so we have to constantly balance that mindset of people want quick, but if you want something good, if you want to build a good game, it takes time. And so there's constantly trying to figure out that right balance of doing the right thing. So
and how far along are you guys with the game?
That's a loaded question. We've been building for about a year and a half, and we are in alpha and internal testing, and we're very soon going to be moving into a beta phase where we can bring people in and testing. We're calling it season 0, which is the MVP of our game, where we're going to just, be testing every functionality possible. It's a seasonal game. And this one is going to, we're doing a different process of a lot of Web3 games kind of try to do this massive launch, huge build hype and bring people in. But the problem with that is you bring everybody in to test and you do this big launch, and then you're just constantly fighting retention and people are leaving and it goes down and down and down. We're doing the opposite approach. We're starting small, bringing a few people in and slowly building up and getting people that want to stay there and be a part of it and feel connected to the project, feel connected to the game. Whatever they say, we can listen and put it into the game, and they want to stick around, and we build up, brick by brick to have a sustainable game, a sustainable project that lasts a long time through seasons.
Yeah, thank you for doing my job, because that was exactly my next question about the sustainability, because we've seen so many failures in Web3 gaming, especially because of this. You have a token which was not utilized to its full potential, or rather it was just focusing solely on the hype. So perhaps could you talk just a little bit more about those strategies in terms of user and player retention? Do you plan to sustain the warp token utility as a form of perhaps some sort of microtransactions or just marketplaces or something like that, or is there a grander plan to this?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because a lot of Web3 games, their plans are the exact opposite of what we've done. What a lot of them do is they build the game out. They get investors in to build a game out. Those investors want a TGE, they want a token to be in, and they want to be early. And so a lot of these projects will build out their game, and then they plan a TGE. They do play to airdrop campaign where testers come in and they get promised an airdrop. And that was a huge thing in this last year. And a lot of them failed. A lot of them didn't work out because they're planning, they're trying to plan their token launch with the market. The market changes every day. They have investors that want that launch as soon as possible so they can get their money. And so when those tokens launch, a lot of them just completely drop. People leave, people get the airdrop, they leave, and then suddenly there's no players in the game, and it becomes just a digital wasteland in the game. And we've seen so many game projects shut down this last month, and I think the majority of them followed that model. Whereas us, we didn't really have options, so we had a community from a previous project. And we wanted to continue to, support them and have them around. So we launched our token first. And, a lot of people were saying that's a mistake. You got to have a game before a token. But we're still here. We're still building and we still got it. So, a lot of people tell you what to do without the experience of actually having done it. Yeah. And you kind of just have to just dive in and take your options and do it and see how it rolls instead of just planning it and planning. Just do it. Oh, am I here still?
No, I think you cut out for a little bit. Maybe it was just me. I mean, and yeah, that's the reason why you're here. By the end of the day, you're here presenting your project as one of those successful ones which survived the cult, which we have right there on the screen. Perhaps one last question before we move on. I saw that you guys are listed on Steam already. How does it shape your Web3 onboarding strategy for those users, which are completely different than what you're probably used to from the Web3 gaming space?
Yeah, I mean, you guys were talking about Web2 and Web3, and that's kind of where we're at too. Previously we built a game where it required to be you had to have a wallet, you had to get in, but we were also pushing the game to be looking like good quality and fun. And a lot of gamers wanted to come in and play it, but they didn't know how to get in. They didn't know how to use a wallet. They didn't know how to connect, and it scared them. We saw a lot of people turn away because they just didn't want to deal with the crypto aspect of it. So with Warped Universe and our ethos, we're making our game Web3 optional, and it's not forced. It's there if you want to use it. And you don't have to, and you can play with everybody. Web2 players can play with Web3 players on any platform. You're in the same game together. Steam is very, very strict on Web3. They do not allow it whatsoever. And that's where most of the gamers are on PC. And so we're, our building from the ground up, we're allowing our game to just, you don't have to have Web3 whatsoever, but you can get in the game. And so Steam, we're trying to plan the game on how we're going to do this, but eventually it was a natural progression of we're just going to build the game and then connect it to these platforms like Steam, like Epic, Nintendo, and whatever other platforms, and just follow their rules. And Google and on iOS, mobile games, whatever platforms they have and whatever rules, we'll just adhere to them, allow the players in, and then we'll connect the Web3 if they allow it. And if they don't, that's okay. You can still play the game. And that kind of has guided us how to implement on each platform. So Steam, completely Web2, no Web3 connections, but they can move over if they want eventually to a different platform and do Web3. They're going to be playing with Web3 players. And I think our whole plan is to blend them in the game. And for Web2 players that are afraid of crypto, they're going to be playing with people that are connected, and they're going to be like, oh, these guys aren't so bad, actually. They're not so scary. We can play with them. And our game is co-op. You're playing together to expand the universe, and you're doing missions together. And we hope those relationships allow people to become more friendly with each other and realize that, these are options that we can do, and it's not too scary.
So you can see that the strategy applies everywhere. We saw it with SyFu, right? We saw it with board games and just general layering of those users, which is really helpful. Let's move on to DeFi, and let's talk with Matus. I hope your connection is okay for now.
sorry.
Let's talk about Deriverse. I guess for me it's super interesting because just background is as a trader. I used to spend a lot of my time on Radium back in the day. So for me, your product is absolutely interesting to say the least. And I saw that your prescription model is probably the prepaid fee taker fee model, right? It's very unique. I don't think we've seen it anywhere so far on the market. But imagine that me as a Radium or a Jupiter user, what's your most compelling arguments that I should go on and switch to Deriverse? And how do you plan to acquire those users, perhaps from those platforms, if at all? Maybe you have a different strategy.
No, that's a good question. So you mentioned Radium, and what was the other project that you mentioned? Sorry.
Jupiter.
Jupiter.
Yeah.
So
It doesn't have
from
to
the
be though.
perspective,
So you can be pretty general, whatever you choose as your competition. Perhaps maybe I see it wrong.
definitely, yeah. So maybe I would start with the broader value proposition, and maybe the kind of the main one. One of the biggest problems that we see currently on Solana trading is that most order book based decentralized exchanges rely heavily on off-chain components. And that is a problem because you have extra dependencies, you have these like extra attack vectors. If AWS is down, which many DEXs are using as their off-chain components, basically your DEX is not functional. You cannot access it. You cannot access your funds, and this doesn't really sit well with the ethos of DeFi and crypto in general. Because let's be honest, what's the point of having full custody of your assets if you then have to go somewhere where you essentially give up that custody in to different extents, depending on whether you are on a centralized exchange or whether you are on a DEX that's a CDeFi DEX, or centralized DeFi DEX using off-chain components. So this is probably the main problem that we are tackling. But then, of course, if we are getting rid of all these centralized components, logically, the performance will suffer, right? So we have done some work on that front as well. So we have completely redone the order book. We have basically built it from ground up, because usually what happens in the Solana ecosystem is that when you're a project building an order book based DEX, you usually go after use a template, either Phoenix or OpenBook V2. We have built everything from scratch. And we realized that we can use the latest Solana tech, like the SPL token 2022 version transactions, to make the whole thing much more efficient. So, for example, our transactions are using 7 times less compute units than an average transaction on Drift, which it won't make such a difference in terms of the Solana fees that you're paying. But the leaner the transaction is on Solana, the more prioritized it is in Solana transaction queues, which makes it much less likely to fail. So this is just one example of what we have done to make up for the fact that we are decentralized and not using off-chain components. And to your question about the subscription-based taker fee model. This is more for professional traders and market makers who already know, that they're going to be generating a lot of trading volumes the next month. So what they can do is, instead of paying us on a per transaction basis, they can pay us in advance, but pay us less. And this way we can get down to something like half a basis point taker fee, which would be the lowest taker fee in DeFi. And we got inspired for this by how it works in TradFi. Because if you want to trade on New York Stock Exchange or London Stock Exchange, you have to pay membership fees in order to even have access, right? So that gave us confidence that there might be demand for that sort of arrangement. I'm sorry, just to
So
check,
we
is the connection okay? Because yeah,
yeah,
I've
it's
been
absolutely perfect. Yeah, it's
Cool.
absolutely perfect. I'm just glad that guys, we're still coming back to the Web2 world, even in DeFi, as you can see. That it's just it works together. Remember back in the day, 10 years ago, perhaps, when we were all about let's disconnect those two worlds together. We're here. Blockchain is here to solve those problems. Sometimes the problems weren't even there, but we were there to solve it. And then now we can see the connection of those two words and how it really works together. So Matus, and in terms of, so you guys haven't launched yet, right? Correct. You're in alpha, or basically you have a sign up list for people to join, correct?
Yeah, so we have closed testnet that's out there and functioning. We're still kind of like fleshing out the details. We are planning to go on mainnet in Q3 this year, and then into production hopefully by breakpoint. So if everything goes well, we would like to make the announcement at breakpoint.
Okay, I think now we're driving onto the questions again of why we're here sitting today, so we can see this in action. So let's say, imagine, presumably you already have a business model built. So presumably you have a trading volume which you're targeting perhaps for your first 6 to 12 months after the launch. What's your strategy if you don't get there? Like, are there ways for you to mitigate that risk, or you're going all or nothing with the methodology approach?
Yeah, so for us,
Or rather, maybe
the way we are.
like a second. Sorry, the second part of the question perhaps could be how agile for not only for you guys perhaps, but just general for Dexes. How agile are those business models to perhaps scale down from the original ambitions? So choose whichever you think is more comfortable for you to answer.
Should I go first, or
Yeah,
was it
absolutely.
a
Yeah,
question?
absolutely. Yeah, that was a question for you specifically. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, there is a chance that the Solana blockchain is already like overcrowded in terms of the dexes available there, and we might not like win users over from Jupiter and Drift. But the beauty of the blockchain space is that you have all the time you have new up and coming chains, and I don't know, if you're built on Ethereum, you can basically port that solution over to any other like EVM based chain. And I think a similar thing is happening to SVM-based blockchains. For example, we're talking to this chain called Fogo, which is basically an SVM-based chain, 20 millisecond block times. They are planning to compete with Solana on high-frequency trading. And there the ecosystem is not so developed, but they're doing a great job in terms of community. So for example, if it doesn't work out on Solana, there is a possibility to talk to some other chains which might be more where the space is not so crowded, and you might be able to capture the trading volumes from that community. But that's just like one example. I think because of the composability of the tech, I think the kind of maneuverability is quite the degree of that is quite high.
Okay. And maybe I'm not sure if that's really relevant to you, but I'm wondering how you're thinking about that. With the rise of platforms like Pump.fun, right, where you have a lot of these meme tokens, there's the influx has been huge. Do you somehow position Deriverse there, like, because a lot of the times those tokens which are there, sometimes they have immense volume, but yet at the same time they never make it to the DEX. Is there a way for you to target that audience, perhaps the meme token traders, or is this something which is completely irrelevant for you?
Yeah, so we are still working out whether that would be a core part of our offering to kind of like to market it to meme coin traders or people who launch meme coins. Because I think on Pump.fun and Radium, a significant component of the whole thing is the bonding curve. Like you need a certain amount of liquidity, and for people to pump the price up on Pump.fun before it gets moved to Radium. Like not everything, as you said, like not everything kind of gets graduated to the spot market on Radium. We basically, if you have liquidity for your token, you can trade it instantly. There are no bonding curves. We are not in charge of like deciding who should be traded on the spot, who shouldn't. if you have $100 and you want to create your own token, you can do that, and then you can instantly trade it in the AMM on our DEX. So yeah, to answer your question, we have the tech basically for everything, but it's very difficult to, on the one hand, offer options and futures to sophisticated traders, and then catering to meme coin traders within the same platform. So we are now leaning toward kind of like marketing this more as a professional trading platform and having the launchpad there as basically as a feature. If there is a new narrative that can basically make use of this feature, we are happy to expand on it and build it out. But honestly, the sort of people who create meme coins and then trade them, I think that is not the main user group that we are targeting.
Understood. Guys, we have started a little bit later, so I hope you're fine if we continue just for a little bit more, the last block which we cover. Before we do that, though, let's get a little bit creative. I want you to forget that you're the leaders and C-level suit of your specific projects, because as I've mentioned before, before we joined the call, there are perhaps a lot of founders who are listening to us nowadays, and they're going through some let's say strategic decisions, if you say politically correct, or just tough storms that they have ahead of them. Imagine you're a founder or just a C-level exec of a project which has its token is flat, the runway is basically short, and the crypto Twitter is silent, and market conditions are not your friend. How do you keep your team aligned as a manager, as a founder, how do you keep that vision perhaps aligned? I'm not sure. Is there anyone who has the answer straight away and wants to start?
I mean, I can go, or go for it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do Adam, then let's do Matus, and then Ipek.
I mean, I've been through this before, for a long time. I think it's your core team. If you got to know who your ride or dies are, the people on your team that have the vision and goal with you. There's going to be people that join you for their own benefit, for their own financial benefit, or what they want. And then there's some people that see the vision with you. And you really have to find those people that want to go to the end with you. And then you support them however you can. Absolutely. Flexibility. If you don't have funds, you be flexible. You allow them to, have their own personal time and whatnot. And you don't set these hard rules because you can't support them with your financial situation. But you do everything that you can to keep those people happy to build with you on this way, and whatever it is. And if you're the leader, you sacrifice everything, like absolutely everything you can, your own funds, your own finances, anything, your health. You don't want to sacrifice your health, but I've been through that. Like you gotta do every single thing you can to support your team, because that is who that matters to get you to the end goal. That's my answer, essentially, to ride through the storm. Like you're on a ship and you're going into this deep, vast ocean, and you have no idea what lays ahead, and you need to be able to trust those people to help you get to the other side. So what do? You support them in every single way, because hopefully if you do, they'll do the same to you.
Thank you for sharing this. Matus?
Yeah, and by the way, yeah, Adam, that definitely makes sense. Yeah. In my experience, I think it's important to make people believe that there is a plan, right? That there is a realistic possibility that you're gonna get through this, and it usually works better if you somehow manage to make it that people feel like they contributed towards deciding on this plan, kind of having them fully on board, making sure that their concerns were heard, that they contributed something meaningful to the solution. like in my experience, when they feel like they're truly part of like figuring out the way forward, as opposed to being told what to do, I think they're much more likely to stay committed and aligned. But as Adam said, like it depends on like what the motivations are of the individual people, and then obviously there are differences in terms of like how on board people are.
Thank you, Ipek.
Yeah, I think this is like one of the things, like if you are working in a startup and if you are in this industry, and if always you see the up and downs, bull and bear all the time, you're just like getting a kind of like accustomed to do it. Like always in our conversations about the runway, like the market stations, always like come up with conversation. So lucky that in our team right now, like we already have experience like long term in the fintech and as well as the crypto and the Web3 in the ecosystem. So we just like know that we cannot really rely on the short term token prices or the market stations. Even the current station like this, when we are checking like this prices up and down, we are still considering like, is it bull coming up or fake bull we are in? So you don't just like we don't really like jump on the good things, and at the same time we don't really rely on like, oh, everything is going bad, the market will be collapsing and we just gonna die. So whatever we are doing on the market, like we runway, we always think we are in a bear. So whatever we are deciding on our market station, like the expenditures, hiring people, always consider it like we are in bear, and makes the maximize our like minimize our spending, maximize our efficiency. That's what that makes the team better for our case in SyFu. Yeah, I would think like there's everybody like in this bear season, like runway is tight. There's no concern about that one. Everybody's having the same shoes. No, I think I've been in this several events in the last three years. I mean, the bear to things, and then 90% of the projects all gone. So not many projects left behind. So it means like we are not only concerning about runway, not only about like the feeling of scaring of the runway things, but most of the project actually couldn't survive the bear season, bear market. So that I can say yes, it is we care about it, but it's already we have experience enough to think that this is not gonna be forever. So we calculate based on our expenditure expenses based on our, what we are in bear season.
Thank you for the insight, gentlemen. It's you know it. I have so many questions. I've sent you those before. I have even more to ask you. We have to cut a little bit short, so let's maybe dive into the last section of our talk today, which is on a positive note, right? That's the I mean, playing offense for the next cycle. I think Ipek, you already kind of touched on that a little bit. I like. The question I was thinking about asking you at first was like, what's your plan for the next cycle when it comes, right? But I think maybe let's twist it up a little bit and again make it a little bit more creative. Let's imagine the market does turn around and you already your the ball is knocking on your door. It's not a bear in hiding. And is there perhaps a role within your company that straight away you're like, oh, I need to plan for it. I want to hire that person. Now we need to step on the gas, so to say, and capitalize on that.
Yeah, I think I'm going back to the very early stage. Like I like the Adams perception, and the way he said, like you have to have like a one-to-one touch with your community. You have to connect with them. So maybe we can hire more marketing people inside, so they can just like we approach our community more faster and more quicker. And at the same time, what I feel like about the bear season was good. I don't really hate this bear because we focus on our product. We more get the investors actually like the good investors, because this is kind of like the good investors are always Matus knows it, probably he's on the like as an investor side before. The good investors always invest in the bear. The hype investors, they invest in the bull market. So the projects that we focus on are really good, strong, supporting investors in the bear season. So we got them the investments and the support from them, and then make it like more faster, more quicker. So that's why we may need more marketing, and also like the product development. Also like the liquidity is good. We always appreciate the liquidity. It creates more better products.
Yeah. Thank you. Adam, in terms of your project, so is there perhaps, I know that you've made it a little bit clear that you're rather more indifferent towards the market cycles because it has to be this way, otherwise you will never be successful. But is there also a growth lever for you that you will pull on as soon as the market turns around? And also, maybe second part of the question, which I want to drive to, is again your token, right? Because the perhaps the players of the Web3 section, let's call them like that. I think I've read that you do have some seasonal burns and some reward mechanics and stuff like that. So, do you think that those players will care more about the governance, or perhaps like some sort of cosmetic perks that you might introduce to them later? What do you think is your public, or rather customers, are more aimed at?
Yeah, for first question, when the market kicks up, we don't want to rely entirely on our token for in the market for our funds, and we want to bring revenue in. That's our number one goal, is to get to revenue, building the game and selling cosmetics and items and packs in our game, and that means bringing in users, because the number one rule I feel is users equals value. You can have whatever narrative or whatever market cycle, but at the end of the game, users, players is value, because they bring the revenue, and with revenue we can hire on new devs, new artists, and expand our team. We can expand our content, we can expand our game. With the market cycle and the bull coming, that's great, and it really helps out our holders of our token, but we don't want to just rely on that side. That's just part of our project. The token is just one part of the project. We want to rely on revenue so that we don't have to rely on a token, and then we can utilize the token in our game, and we don't have to burn our treasury or anything. We just want to, and we can continue expanding. What was the second question? Sorry.
That was what you want to pull on as a lever. That was the first question, and the second one was with the token mechanics, so to say. What do you think? How do your users look at it?
Yeah, actually, the revenue ties in, because our token flow essentially is the more sales we do, Web 2 and Web 3, we actually repatriate the funds from Web 2 into Web 3 and buy back our token. And then we use that as a reward mechanism to bring users in. And so there's this whole statement of when, onboarding to Web3, onboarding players to Web3, but actually you don't even have to bring in Web2 players into the Web3 sphere to actually utilize that. You can repatriate some of the funds and start buying the token on the Web3 side, and then use that as a mechanism to reward, and that will bring in players onto the Web3 side. And so that token flow, people do like to vote, and they do like to help guide the project as a development side. But a lot of the Web3 players, they want rewards. They want to be there for the owning your assets, but also getting rewards, real tangible money from playing the game. And with the token flow of using Web 2 and Web 3 revenue to buy the token and give that out as a reward mechanism, we believe that will bring more people into the Web 3 sphere on that side, along with utilizing cosmetics and NFTs in our game as rewards for as they play in different missions and throughout our season.
Okay, thank you. Matus, I think we have a unique opportunity because of your CV and what you've been through and what you're going through right now to ask you this question. And this really ties into the funding options, and not necessarily to Deriverse, namely, but I think we can all learn from your experience. You don't have to be very specific, plus we don't really have time to go into each and every one of those funding let's say options. But what do you think? Could you even just rank them from the least viable to the most viable, if you have like the equity, token sales, revenue financing, or grants? But I think that kind of answers itself, doesn't it? So what do you think is the most the best funding options right now that your fellow colleagues might have?
Well, I mean, obviously, revenue financing is the best one because it shows your project is healthy, it's sustainable. Yeah, but of course, like early stage companies, that's why they're early stage. Like they are like on their way towards revenue. So that's not always possible. And it's kind of difficult to rank the rest because they all have pros and cons. Like obviously grants are free money, but usually they don't move the needle enough to make a real impact because these foundations are giving out of course there are exceptions, but 10, 20, 50K, which is nice, but it's not like you can finance your startup for a couple of years like using that. On the other hand, it does create this nice signal. So, for example, if you get a grant from a big foundation, it means that they've probably done their DD to a certain extent, and it's a good signal. And then tokens and equity. Well, I guess it depends. They're both dilutive, so you're essentially giving out like something that belongs to you, your foundation, your company, your community to someone else in exchange for money. But you get that cash. I guess the main difference between equity and tokens is that investors prefer equity because it's easier to then control the company or the project in various ways. But so maybe for the project, like pure tokens are slightly better, but then you have to think about what that does to your governance, right? Like how big a percentage of tokens are you giving out? Like does that turn you into a VC coin? Will there be one entity that's holding too many tokens, etc., etc.? So if you can get to revenues, that's great. That's obviously the best. Then all the other three pros and cons there.
Thank you. That's very insightful. Guys, we've overrun a little bit. So we will probably, let's get into one last fun thing to do before we sign off. Thank you again very much for joining. And we will probably not have time to answer the public Q&A, but let's do some rapid fire questions. If I may ask you to just give me one word answer to those questions. Some of those might be silly. We only have 4 of those. Let's start with Ipek, then we go to Matus and then to Adam. So try to keep it to one word, and I'm just let's play a little game. I'm just kind of curious to what you guys gonna answer. So the first question is like best Web2 tactic that still works in Web3.
Storytelling.
Matus?
Am I allowed to
Adam,
do
feel free to jump in.
User problem focused. Hyphens. If I do hyphens, is that a...
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Everything counts as Web3.
Focused, being user problem focused.
Okay.
I'd say community.
Okay. Favorite ecosystem to build right now for you personally? Probably pretty obvious for some of you, I guess, but let's ask that anyway.
Oh, we go for BNB chain, but I think it's more hype ones actually base now. Everybody says base.
Matus?
I guess I don't have to have to answer this question, right?
I think we can. Yeah, I think we can skip it. Of course, Adam.
I mean, I would say SyFu because
very nice strategic move. I like that. Most overhyped crypto narrative into today.
AI.
Yeah. Well, that was mine, but
yeah, go for it. I think this is the purpose of this exercise, exactly, to see how successful leaders are looking at things. Is it AI as well? Should we?
But overhyped. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead, Adam.
I'll use the hyphens and I'll add on to that. I'll say AI agents, social agents, the bots that are everywhere on social now.
Okay.
I have a token attached.
Okay.
I would like to say that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, go for it. What do you like to say?
Like overhyped doesn't mean useless. It's just just overhyped. Yeah.
No.
Exactly. Last question is the stupidest questions I will ask you today. How long until the next true bull run, gentlemen? Let's lock in those predictions. No financial advice to all of our listeners, of course. When do you think the next bull run is here, Ipek? One word answer only.
All right, I say very optimistic forever.
Okay.
I would say 0. I think we are. I mean, Bitcoin was 88 yesterday. Was it? Was
Yep.
it?
Yeah,
we
yep.
might be getting there. So 0.
I would say tomorrow.
Right. Yeah, I think we're at 111,000 right now. So good news for everyone involved, right? Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. I really appreciate those. I would say you gave us a lot of insights today. I'm really honored to have you here with us. Congratulations on what you guys have achieved. I think it's a tremendous job that you guys have done. Would you like to say anything before you sign off? Ipek, Matus, Adam, feel free to just jump in whenever.
Yeah,
Maybe to your
we are.
listeners, to your fans, to your customers, to your investors.
Definitely. We are more than happy to have everyone to join our SyFu. Like, just check it out. Come over to SyFu.io and you join our Telegram X and specifically Discord. You will see our community and join, and you definitely will not be regretful.
Matus, do you have anything to say?
I would just say that if you like the idea of a fully decentralized trading experience, and when I say fully, I mean fully, please come check out our website, Deriverse.io. Demo is already live. Closed testnet is live. If you're a trader, market maker, you don't have to be a trader. If you just enjoy trading, drop us a message, and yeah, we would love to talk to you.
Adam,
Then
any?
I would say hit our website up, warp.games. But the most important thing for us right now is wish lists on Steam and Epic, because that's what gets you in front of the players. And so if you have a Steam account or an Epic account, go on there, search for Warped Universe and click the wish list. And that will, every single click helps us immensely to get in front of other people.
Gentlemen, from the bottom of my heart, thank you again very much and best of luck on your endeavors.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So, guys, thank you very much for joining. That will be all from today. But definitely stick around on our socials. We will be doing these more often. I think one of the next topics that we will cover are more technical. We will look at I will just give you a little bit of a hint. We will look at front end and how that is implemented in nowadays projects. We're a product and venture studio, so we love working with with various products, be it DeFi, gaming, or whatever else it might be. So absolutely feel free to always reach out. My QR code is right there for you to use. Reach out. Let's talk about your projects, and we can keep building. Have a good day, and thank you for joining.